Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest Arc, chapters 24 through 26. I am a bad reviewer. Over the last month and some change, I forgot it even existed. Oh boy, yeah. So, I'm not even gonna pretend to remember what exactly happened at the end of the last chapter. Natsu beat Mercuphobia and everything's kind of hunky-dory. That's where we left off, more or less. Now, as far as chapter 24 is concerned, we got a good chunk of information on all of the god dragons. Now, it's mentioned by Mercuphobia that they all haven't necessarily met all at once at any time during their entire tenure. So, it's possible, like, he's clearly not met up front some of these dragons, and it's possible that neither of them have met each other, and it's just like they know of each other's existence, but they never meet. So they're definitely off in their own worlds, more or less. But Mercuphobia does give our team some really interesting information about at least a few of the dragons. So obviously we know Ignia. Ignia is supposed to be kind of a belligerent dragon, which we already know this much. It's kind of old hat with him. Natsu's not giving up on that because he's gonna go punish Ignia eventually for being a bad son to Igniel. Whatever. Least important right now because we already know about him. He's already been set up. Now I'm just gonna run through all the dragons that Mercuphobia set up for us. So we have Aldron, the wood god dragon, which, okay, so let me just say this. I'm surprised that it's not... Okay, so I made a prediction that it would be like, water, like a sea dragon, Mercuphobia, a fire version of dragon, which is Ignia, and then the other three would be like an earth dragon and a wind dragon and forget what the other one is, something else dragon, and I was way off base. So I obviously what's his name? God Serena did not necessarily get his god slaying magic, whatever you want to call it, because he's a whole thing. Either way, he clearly did not necessarily get his magic from these dragons, and that's pretty evident in how their descriptions are meant. So anyways, Aldron, wood god dragon, apparently the biggest dragon ever, so bigger than Acnologia, bigger than really, well, any other dragon. Acnologia was really kind of one of the biggest dragons out there. Yeah, no, we're in for a treat. So really cool. That's I'm interested to see what his temperament is like and what he's like, because if he's anything like Warrid, who is also a wood plant wizard, meh. I don't know. We'll see how he is. Also, he's got a special magic other than wood, I guess, which is mind reading. So I'm a little interested to see how his magic connects with the wood aspect of it. Maybe he has like plant things that like attach to the brain, and he can read people's minds through seedlings or something. It could be a really interesting idea. The next dragon that we know of is Selene, who is the moon god dragon, and she, I assume it's a she, Selene is kind of a very feminine name. I guess it could be a guy. I'm kind of hoping that it is a woman because all the other dragons seemingly are men, so let's get a female dragon in there to kind of help balance it out to some degree. I digress. Either way, so she, or that dragon, apparently uses star magic, so, or magic of the stars, rather, they say. So I'm wondering if that has anything to do with like I know Jalal uses like the Grand Chariot kind of spells. So I wonder if it's like very similar magic to him, only dragon magic. Either way, it sounds really cool. A lot of these are kind of more abstract magics or themes for these dragons compared to Mercuphobia and Ignia. Finally, we have the gold god dragon, Viernus, and we know absolutely nothing about him. Mercuphobia has never met him, and he doesn't know anything about him. So yeah, so we got at least names for all 5 dragons now. Mercuphobia, Ignia, Aldrun, I'm already forget, Selene, and Viernus. So at the very least, we have all their names and their themes in some capacity. Now we just gotta figure out where they are and what they're like as far as temperaments and personalities. One thing I want to say before we move on from this is I still really like Mercuphobia. He is a chill dude. He's cool with not being like a water god dragon. Technically, physiologically, he's probably technically still a dragon, despite being in human form, but he's still got horns. But he's a really cool guy. He's real chill. He just wants to live his life in peace and harmony with all the other people around him. And he's got a Caramilla. I don't know. I've never figured out how to say her name. He's got his honey babe, and he just wants to live a happy life with everybody around him, and that's real cool. He's a real cool G. I like him a lot. So it turns out that Natsu and his team are now moving on to their next target, which ends up being Aldrun, the wood god dragon, and they're headed towards I forget if it was the capital city. At the very least, it's the biggest city in Giltana, and it's called Drasil, and if there's not dragon stuff all over this city, I don't know what it is, because Drasil is such a dragony sounding name. Come on. We had a couple of funny moments in this chapter. So obviously they're going there. They're talking about how like, oh, they have to go on foot because there doesn't seem to be any train headed towards Drasil, which is not true because Natsu and Wendy erased the train marks or etches on the map that they were given because they don't like traveling on moving objects that are not animals, I guess. So that was pretty funny. So that was a pretty funny part. Urza kind of chases after them all angrily. At the end of the chapter, they end up kind of like camping out, and Natsu ends up hearing Lucy kind of writing in her journal. And first of all, Lucy is still kind of a little worried about Natsu, but it turns out that she'll get over it. It's the kind of thing where it's like, eventually it'll come to a head and he'll have to overpower this like dark whatever magic whatever, and he'll become stronger for it, and it'll resolve itself. The funny part of this ending of this chapter was that Natsu, in order to take revenge on Urza, ends up drawing all over her face, and he draws on Lucy and Wendy's faces too, because he's a jerk. That's really the end of the chapter. We just got a bunch of information on the god dragons, and that was probably the bulk of interesting stuff in this chapter. Now moving on to the weirdest chapter in a very, very long time. I am like, this chapter, I'm just gonna, like, I have it written down after all my notes about the chapter, but like, it felt like a filler chapter, and it was just really, really weird. So first of all, they arrive in a town called Tekka, and that's basically just like a pit stop before they head to Drasil. And in this town, there's another guild called Fairy Nail, and it turns out that all of the members of Fairy Nail look exactly like Fairy Tail Guild. So for whatever reason, they have this. Maybe it'll come up even in a bigger sense later down the line. But it's just really, I don't know why they needed to do this in order to, there isn't, the next chapter after this does kind of build on it, and there's some kind of like cliffhangery stuff, but like, I feel like this chapter was kind of more or less unnecessary. It really did feel like a filler episode from the anime or something, where it's just like, it felt like, sure, it could serve a greater purpose as far as like gags or whatever going forward, but like, I just don't get it. But anyways, the entirety of the Fairy Nail Guild are filled with basically showbiz people. So you have Urza's doppelganger. So you have Urza's doppelganger, Urska or Ursk. I think it's Ursk. And she's like an actress. Natsu's a big time actor. Lucy's doppelganger is his manager. And you have apparently Gajil and Levy's They're a comedy duo. Meanwhile, you have Loki, which I don't get that. So Loki, all of them have like different names, or at least like kind of like changed names. Like Gray's counterpart is named Glenn. Juvia's is Juvina. It's some real like kind of dumb stuff, but like at the very least it's changed to some degree. Loki, our boy Loki is literally named Loki. I was getting ready for it to be like the kind of thing where it was like, oh, Loki. I was getting ready to see it actually be the Loki that we've always known, and he's just kind of acting like a real playboy and acting like an idiot. So I don't know. It's not him, I guess. Whatever. Apparently his counterpart is a porn star, which seems okay. I don't know why they needed to throw that in. But yeah, this entire chapter was really, really weird. The like couple of saving graces around this chapter and even the next chapter are really Gray. Really, it's really Gray. Gray, in this chapter, he starts kind of hinting at that maybe he's coming around on Juvia in general and her feelings, and his counterpart is a stripper, which is super, super funny, because he doesn't mean to strip, and it's just like a habit for battle, but then his counterpart is like a straight up stripper in a club, making all that money. So his whole thing is really, really funny, and also really kind of heartwarming to see him come around on Juvia. So the end of the chapter is basically Urkis and Urza. I keep calling her something else, but like it's Urkis. They basically swap for some reason just as Team Natsu's about to leave town. Because apparently Urkis just couldn't get a grasp on her next role. So Urza, being the wonderful actress that she is, ends up just staying behind to play her part, and she basically ruins her career because Urza is really not that great of an actress. But it's just mind-blowing because it's like in a series where it's like, okay, you could get away with this in the anime if you really wanted to way back, and they did, but like there's really no point to having this chapter. I just don't. I'm gonna move on. This is just a weird chapter. Now we move on to the final chapter that just came out this week, and that's chapter 26. For some reason, Urza's back. They don't even address the fact that she swapped places with Urkis. And it's just like, again, it's another thing that makes it really weird, that last chapter. I just don't get it. They end up stopping again in another town just so basically people can stretch their legs before hitting Drasil. And everybody kind of goes their own way because they have another couple of hours to kill. Gray ends up seeing Juvina, the counterpart to Juvia, in town, and they basically go on a little date. And it turns out that, like, Juvina is just basically trying to pry into Gray's love life and kind of open him up to the idea more and more so that he actually does love Juvia, which is something that's been building for a while. And I'm not surprised that they're finally kind of hitting that mark. The end of the original series of Fairy Tail kind of left them at kind of like oh, yeah, he's open to accepting her love, but like, it's kind of weird. But now we're really starting to move into that like point where he's gotta put up or shut up. And by the end of the date, he basically essentially admits that he does love Juvia, but he doesn't quite feel like he's ready to admit that to her because he doesn't feel like he's good enough for her yet. Which is all sorts of adorable. Gray is all this calm and cool, collected kind of guy, but inside he's really just this, like, bumbling idiot that's trying to figure out love and whatever. It's an adorable chapter. After all of this, so, first of all, it turns out, so, in the prior chapter, we learned that Juvina is actually a topless model. Well, a topless model, which is, of course she would be. But in this chapter, we learn that she actually lied to Urkis, who told our team that she was a topless model. But it was really just a joke, and because Urkis is kind of a prude, she took it at face value. And in reality, she's just basically a swimsuit model. And that's about it. That does not stop her from flashing Gray as kind of a honestly, I don't know why she would do that. I mean, other than the fact that Gray and Glenn, his counterpart, look exactly the same, clearly they're not the same person. So I don't know. It's a whole weird situation. These last 2 chapters are really weird, and honestly, I feel like they could be condensed into one and still get to the point, which is at the very end when they're about to head off to Drasil on the train. Juvia shows up, and that begs the question, what's wrong with her? So, this is honestly the biggest drop that we could have gotten after this weird couple of chapters. The fact that a fairy tale member who we saw many chapters ago get taken out by Toka the White Witch, or whatever, suddenly popping back up, it really is like, I got bad feelings about this, especially with the buildup with like Gray finally admitting that he loves Juvia, and it's really kind of building up some bad stuff. And I don't think that they'll kill anybody. Certainly not Gray, but I don't think that they'll like kill Juvia for anything. But they're certainly setting up some heartbreak to happen. And again, it might just be temporary. It might be the kind of thing where Gray and Juvia have to battle it out, and it kind of hurts him because now he's going to have to admit that he loves her to her face while they're battling, and maybe that'll snap her out of whatever Toka's magic's going to be on her. Either way, it's not going to end crazy well for everybody. Somebody's going to cry. That's all I'm saying. In the end, I kind of liked these 3 chapters. They were really weird. At the very least, the last 2. These last 2 chapters were really weird. I honestly think that the last 2 chapters could have been condensed into one singular chapter. One where the Fairy Nail Guild did not exist, and where Gray basically just met a girl that happened to look like Juvia, and they chit-chat, and he kind of like tells her because whatever reason, and then it just coincidentally, she happens to be dating somebody that looks like him. I feel like they could have set it up in a very more condensed way without it being drawn out, and still have the same reaction at the end where it's like, oh, Juvia shows up. So, I don't know. It was a weird couple of chapters. I can't say that I like it because I feel like they could have just condensed it and it could have been better. But c'est la vie. I don't know. I really did like, though, the chapter where they discussed the god dragons. So that I can give a thumbs up to. And I really do like the idea that Juvia has suddenly shown up now that Gray's starting to like show that he's really coming around to liking her. So I think we're definitely heading into some really interesting territory now. Well, those are my thoughts on these last 3 chapters. Sorry that the fact that I had to do 3 chapters in one review, I don't know. That's all I gotta say about this. Let me know what you guys thought about these 3 chapters down below in the comment section. What do you think of these last 2 chapters? Little weird, right? It feels weirdly fillery and a little bit contrived, if that's the word. I use words that I don't really know. I don't know. Either way, it feels weird that they would do it in such a off way to get to this point with Juvia showing back up. Either way, let me know what you think about it down in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so that you get all the notifications when I upload. I will see you guys in another video. See you later.